Nobody has signed anything yet. Let me just start there. Because if you've been watching the news this week, and honestly, who could look away, you've seen a whirlwind of announcements, Truth Social posts, and press conferences that would make your head spin. Trump says the war is over. Iran says not so fast. Pakistan's Prime Minister says the deal will be signed in 24 hours. A senior Trump administration official says they're not 100% confident it'll happen. And as of this morning, June 14th, the U.S. military-naval blockade on Iran is still in full force. Still, the Strait of Hormuz, one of the most critical shipping lanes on Earth, is still choked. No ink on paper. No signatures. No deal. So let's slow down and actually talk about what's happening here, because the speed at which this story is moving is exactly what they're counting on to keep you confused. Here's where we are. On June 12th, Pakistan's Prime Minister Shehbaz Sharif announced that a final, agreed-upon text of a U.S.-Iran peace deal had been reached. He said Pakistan was preparing for an electronic signing, and that technical talks would follow next week. Trump reposted Sharif's statement on Truth Social without a single word of his own. Just a repost. The man who never shuts up. Suddenly, quiet. What does that tell you? Then Iran's foreign ministry came out and said, and I'm paraphrasing here, hold on. Spokesperson Esmail Baghaei told Iranian state media that caution was needed about the timing, and that the signing would not happen the following day. Iran's Mehr news agency published what they claimed were the 14 provisions of the draft deal. The U.S. would lift oil sanctions, end the naval blockade, and release Iran's frozen funds. Trump then fired off a Truth Social post saying that reporting had nothing to do with the terms that were agreed to in writing. Nothing. Zero connection to what was actually negotiated, he claimed. So now we've got Pakistan announcing a done deal. Iran publishing what they say is in the deal. Trump saying what Iran published isn't what's in the deal. And the war still ongoing. Does any of this sound like a finished peace agreement to you? Let's be real for a second. Here's what Trump actually said on Thursday in the Oval Office, his exact words we should get done over the next few days. We're going to have a signing. Maybe in Europe. And it's a great thing. Maybe in Europe. Maybe over the next few days. The President of the United States discussing a war that has been going on for 3.5 months and has killed 13 American soldiers, used the word maybe. And that same Thursday morning, the same morning he said, maybe in Europe, Trump had also posted that the U.S. would attack Iran very hard tonight. On the same day, same morning. Attack them very hard tonight, and we're going to sign a great deal, maybe in Europe. That's not a diplomatic strategy. That's chaos. That's a man running foreign policy like he's flipping between channels. Now, to be fair, and I want to be fair here, there are signs that something real is being negotiated. A senior administration official did confirm that the deal framework involves reopening the Strait of Hormuz and Iran taking steps to dismantle its nuclear program. Trump himself said yes, conceptually, when asked if nuclear issues were addressed. Stock markets reacted positively. Oil prices dropped more than 3% on Friday on the hope of a deal. So the financial markets believe something is coming. That's not nothing. But here's what you need to understand about what's actually at stake, because the media keeps skipping this part. The Strait of Hormuz isn't just a foreign policy talking point. About 20% of the world's entire oil supply moves through that narrow stretch of water. Every day it's blocked. The ripple effects hit your life. Gas prices go up. Shipping costs go up. The cost of everything in your grocery store that was transported by ship goes up. The World Bank has already warned that sustained energy disruptions could drag global economic growth down to 1.3% this year. Developing countries are being crushed. And here at home, Americans are already squeezed from tariffs, rising healthcare costs, and stagnant wages, and now add an energy crisis on top of it. This matters to you. Even if you've never thought about Iran a day in your life, this war has been quietly draining your wallet for months. And then there's the Iran side of this deal that nobody's really talking about. Iran wants its frozen funds released. We're talking about billions of dollars in assets that have been locked up under sanctions. Iran wants the naval blockade lifted, the same blockade that just this past week accidentally hit 3 Indian merchant ships off the coast of Oman and killed 3 sailors who had nothing to do with any of this. Iran wants sanctions on its oil sector removed. These aren't small asks. These are the kinds of concessions that take months to negotiate, verify, and implement. And America? What does America get? Iran agrees to steps toward dismantling its nuclear program. Not full dismantlement. Steps toward. And if you think that's a detailed, airtight, verified commitment, look at the history. Iran has been negotiating around its nuclear program for 2 decades. The original JCPOA, the nuclear deal Obama signed, took years to negotiate, had international inspectors, had verification mechanisms, had buy-in from Europe, Russia, and China. Trump blew that deal up in his first term. Now he's negotiating a replacement in the middle of an active war through social media posts and Pakistani mediators, and he wants to call it a great settlement. I'm not saying a deal is impossible. I'm saying the gap between what Trump is claiming publicly and what's actually been nailed down in writing is enormous. And the American people deserve to understand that gap before we're told to celebrate. Here's something else that's bothering me. The naval blockade, Trump's own post from Friday, says it will remain in full force and effect until this transaction is finalized. His word, transaction. He called ending a war with Iran a transaction. That's how he sees this, not as a historic diplomatic achievement, not as the end of a conflict that killed American soldiers. A transaction. One where the terms are still being haggled over while drones are still being shot down near the Strait of Hormuz this very morning. 13 American service members died in this war. 348 were wounded. Civilian infrastructure inside Iran was bombed, including a drinking water reservoir using American-made munitions, in potential violation of the Geneva Convention. 3 Indian sailors died when U.S. strikes accidentally hit commercial vessels during the blockade. The Strait of Hormuz has been disrupted for months, sending shockwaves through global energy markets, and all of that happened while we were waiting for a deal that still hasn't been signed. If that deal gets signed today, or tomorrow, or this week, great. Genuinely, great. Peace is better than war. Always. But a deal announcement is not the same as peace. A Truth Social repost is not a treaty. Pakistan's Prime Minister saying 24 hours doesn't mean 24 hours. And conceptually, yes, on nuclear issues is not a verified disarmament commitment. What we need, what the American people deserve, is clarity. Not spin. Not Truth Social posts at midnight. Not a maybe in Europe. We need to know exactly what was agreed to, in writing, with real verification mechanisms and a clear timeline. We need to know what we gave up and what we actually got. We need Congress to weigh in, since this war was never formally declared by them in the first place. You've been patient. You've been watching this story unfold for 3.5 months. You deserve real answers, not managed confusion. So, stay locked in. Don't let the deal is almost done headlines lull you into looking away right at the moment when the details matter most. Because it's in the details, the ones they don't want you reading, where you'll find out what this war actually cost and whether whatever comes next was worth it. Share this if you think Americans deserve the full story. Drop a comment. Do you think this deal is real or just another round of negotiations dressed up as victory? Because I want to know what you think. And for the first time in a long time, what you think actually matters.